Fixing drywall screw pops. Although you might not realize it, drywall is held in place by screws hidden all over the place. And though these screws should remain invisible, they don't always. This is especially true with newly built homes. As underlying wooden wall frames dry out and shrink, it can cause screws to shift and move, displacing the compound that used to hide them. The resulting circular cracks or bulges directly over some screw heads are called screw pops, and fixing them is different than repairing other drywall issues. In a nutshell, there are 4 steps to the job. Removal of all existing drywall compound over the screw head. Tightening the screw down with a handheld screwdriver. Filling the space over the screw with spackling compound. And then sanding the hardened spackle with a sanding sponge. The first step involves removing all the old filler that's sitting over the screw using a blunt tool. The end of a utility knife with the blade fully retracted is an excellent tool for this, and so is an old slot screwdriver. If you do use a knife, you definitely want to retract the blade fully into the handle because you don't want to cut into the paper drywall surface itself in any way. All you want to do is work out all the old filling compound from around the screw head with some judicious pokes of the knife body, fully exposing the metal of the screw head underneath. The only thing that might complicate the screw pop repair is if the screw wasn't properly installed in the first place. Drywall screws should be tight enough so their heads sit just below the surrounding drywall surface, but not driven so far down that the paper surface of the drywall becomes torn and frazzled. Most times, frazzling isn't a problem with drywall screw pop repairs, but I'll tell you what to do later if it is. For now, just pick out all the old compound and fully reveal the screw head. All drywall screws have what's called a Phillips head, which means there's a cross-shaped recess for a cross-shaped Phillips screwdriver to fit into. Not all Phillips screwdrivers will fit the medium-sized recess in the drywall screw heads, so try various sizes if there seems to be a problem with the screw tip coming out of the head. The screwdriver tip should be fully engaged with the screw head, and it should stay there as you tighten things. Success also depends on pushing the driver inwards with your hand as you tighten. All screw pops are caused by a certain amount of looseness setting in between the screw head and the drywall. That's why the next step involves tightening the screw. It never takes much, typically only 1/8 to 1/2 a turn, but now's the time to do it, and do it by hand. Don't tighten the screw so much that it causes the paper surface to tear, just enough to make things snug. If your screw head is overdriven and has caused the paper around it to frazzle, take the screw out completely, then re-drive it an inch or 2 above or below the original spot. You can use a hand screwdriver for this, but only drive the screw deep enough so the head sits just below the surrounding paper surface. Finish up by using the butt end of your drywall knife to pound down the frazzled hole where the screw used to be, in the same way you did when repairing nail holes. You'll fill this pounded hole with spackling compound and sand later, as you're finishing all the other screw pops you're working on now. At this stage, you should have a smooth, clean, slightly recessed screw head with smooth, frazzle-free drywall around it. There will also be a place where the paint stops and bare drywall begins. Now's the time to get out your drywall knife and your tub of spackling compound, then swipe a coat of filler into the slight depression. Apply enough to fill the space with the compound sitting slightly higher than the surrounding wall, just like you did with the nail hole repair. Leave the compound to fully dry, then take your 80 grit sanding sponge and rub the area with circular motions to smooth and level it. This work doesn't take much pressure, but it does take a good eye. You want to sand enough to make the patched area flat, but not so much that it starts to become dished again. Flat overall is what you're aiming for, with the edges of the filler feathering out to nothing as it reaches the wall surface. If there was any detectable step where the paint stopped and the bare drywall started again, the sanded and tapered filler needs to cover this transition. Got a bigger hole to repair? Something ugly and frazzled? Watch the next lecture to learn how to make it disappear completely.